right, everyone. My talk today is going to be Beyond Engineering, Essential Soft Skills for Thriving in Your iOS Career. But before I dive into my talk, a little bit about myself, let me introduce myself. My name is Carola Nitz. I'm a senior software engineer, and I've been doing iOS development now since 2012, so for over a decade. And I started out working at a couple of startups back in Germany, and then I thought, oh, I want to work with the big ones over in the Silicon Valley, so I applied for a couple of jobs. Failed a lot of them, actually. But then I landed at Apple, and I got to work on the Maps team for a year and a half. But then I figured, I really miss working on open source, and I really would like to go back to Europe. So I joined the consulting company behind VLC. And there I got to work on the UI rewrite for 3.2. But then we were only 20 people there, and I really missed working in a bigger team and learning from other iOS developers, so I applied, and in 2019, I got a job with Netflix, where I've been now for the past 5 years. I worked a lot on the player there. I worked on the brightness slider, for example, or also on the UI for live and ads. And what I'm talking about today is something that I used in all of those companies. But let me start out with this. Did you know that 85% of job success comes from having well-developed soft and people skills? Think about that, 85%. So that came out of a research that was conducted by the Harvard University and the Carnegie Foundation and Stanford Research Center. And it was published back in 1918. But it is just as much true today as it was back then. When I started my career, I thought technical expertise alone is going to be what will set me apart. It wasn't. My career really took off when I understood this. Soft skills are what takes you from being a good developer to being a great developer. And that is why I'm here today. Because this is something that I really, really care about, and it's not something that you get taught in CS classes or not at adaptability session, at least not that I know about it. All right, so let's look at what are actually some hard skills and what are some soft skills. What are the definitions of that? So hard skills, they're very specific, teachable, measurable abilities. Think of like language skills and coding skills. I couldn't stand here today if I wouldn't have learned English at some point. And I wouldn't understand WWDC videos or documentation. And also, if I couldn't code, probably wouldn't land that job interview. Soft skills, on the other hand, they're more interpersonal skills and behavioral skills. They're really much shaped by your culture, and they're needed to interact with others, to manage tasks, and adapt to various situations. Hard skills, they're the ones that get you in the door. If I can't talk the language of my interviewer, probably won't get that job. If I cannot code, probably also not. But soft skills are really the things that help you thrive, collaborate, and lead. And I think this is especially true today where AI makes those coding pieces a little bit easier than before. All right, so what are some of those core soft skills that I'm going to talk about today? First up, communication. We're going to talk about how we can clearly communicate and get everybody aligned. Then collaboration. I'm going to give some tips to foster good collaboration so that people work well together. Then problem solving. Methods for identifying, analyzing, and solving problems. Then we're going to talk about leadership, how you can prioritize projects and make decisions. And then we're going to look at adaptability and some tips to easier adapt to changes in the industry and your company. And last but very much not least, emotional intelligence and strategies to recognize and manage your own emotions and develop empathy. All right, with that, I really, really love this comic here. For the people in the back, the first thing illustrates how a customer explained when they wanted to have a swing, and he shows it with 3 places to sit. Then how the project leader understood it. He's like, okay, I got this. I'm going to make this swing just in front of the trunk and attach it to the branches. It doesn't really swing well. The data analyst, how he designed it, he's like, oh, I know, I just cut out a piece of the trunk. That's going to work, and I'm just going to add 2 more branches. And here, how the programmer wrote it, attached to the trunk, doesn't really work at all. But I hope this illustrates really, really well how communication is really ambiguous. We're all talking about the same thing, but we have different visions in our head. So in order to avoid talking about different things and having varying visions of a problem, we need to communicate clearly. And one tip is to ask clarifying questions. It really helps you to eliminate confusion and get a clearer understanding, and it ensures that everybody is aligned on the right solution. When I started out my career, I actually was a little bit afraid to ask questions. I thought everybody's gonna think I'm dumb and everybody already knows what they're talking about. But I realized later the opposite was actually true. I deprived myself and others of learning opportunities by not asking questions. So some tips that I have, if you're also sometimes afraid of asking questions, first do a little bit of research on a topic to maybe get some confidence. Oh, this is not documented anywhere. Or ask a trusted colleague. Did we talk already about this? And when I started to work on thumbs in the player at Netflix, so we wanted to add rating thumbs in the player, the project manager said, hey, in the full player, can we add thumbs to rate? I was like, okay, cool. Then I looked up what kinds of players we have, and I was like, oh, we don't only have something for shows and movies, we also have something for trailers and for ads. Do we want to add that everywhere? And it's like, oh no, thank you for asking this. We just want to have it for shows and for movies. It's like, great. And then the next tip, communicate context. People might not know what you know, and even if they do, when in doubt, over-communicate. It also might not be top of their mind. And a tip here is start with why you're sharing something. So in the case of thumbs in the player, there's also obviously downloads where you can watch things, shows when you're offline. And I knew, okay, if I'm adding thumbs there, I can't reach the server, so that's gonna take me a little bit. And I need to also save it, the state. So I went over to the project manager and I told her, hey, if we want to add thumbs also to downloaded content, it's probably gonna take a little bit longer. Do we wanna do this initially? And it's like, oh, actually, no, we wanna just get out with the first iteration by just having it when we're online. So communicating context is important to make informed decisions and to set the right expectations with partners on what is possible from your end. All right, so now we have clear communication and knowledge sharing. Those are the foundation for great collaboration. But centered to collaboration are also the people you work with. So with that, let's talk about building relationships. So the more you get to know someone, the more trust you will build and the less room is there for miscommunication. And I really, really love scheduling one-on-ones, especially when I join a new team to get to know people around me and that I work with. And when I say one-on-ones, I don't only mean the reoccurring ones that you have weekly. Reoccurring ones could also be some that you have once a month or every 3 months, and they can be also with people that you look up to. And they are also a great place to talk about things like miscommunication. I had a manager who checked in on me very, very frequently on a project, and it felt to me a little bit micromanaging. And I thought, oh my God, do they not trust me? Am I not performing well at all of these things in my head? But I sent a message to her and I was like, hey, I notice you check in on me very, very frequently. Could you tell me what the context is? Can we jump on a call? So we jumped on a one-on-one call and she was then telling me, hey, I was actually tasked to look at how I could support you guys and see where something is taking a little bit longer than we need and find those opportunities. And I was so relieved. I was so glad that I jumped on a call with her. And also it's very important, do it in person. Via text, a lot is missing. You don't see their face, you don't hear the tone. So this is really, really important. And it was great. So she was able to support me because I shared with her, hey, we don't have a data analyst. And we're really analyzing all of these tests of our own, but we're not the experts here. So she helped us get a data analyst, and then those projects went so much smoother. And I still have a great working relationship with her. And then next, show appreciation. It makes good work visible to others and makes people feel so valued, and it's just something that feels good. Not everybody really likes bragging about their own work, but it's so easy to do it for others. And the nice side effect is maybe they reciprocate, but also it really makes people just want to work with you. So something here, if you notice it, don't wait. If somebody helped you in your project, tell them like, thank you so much for helping me with this. Thank you for, helping with that crasher. Or I really appreciate that you jumped in there and fixed that. And something that we do at work as well is we started having shout outs in our team meetings. So it's the first agenda item, and everybody on the team is like, hey, I want to thank Patrick for like reviewing my PRs. I really want to thank Aaron for like jumping into this issue and helping me like triage it. It really sets a nice tone for the rest of the meeting. So showing appreciation is great for collaboration. So now we have people who understand each other and who want to work with each other. Great foundation for solving big problems. But in order to solve big problems, we need to be able to capture, analyze, and evaluate problems and choose the best course of action. For that, building presentation skills is really great. And when I say presentation skills, I don't only mean what I'm doing here right now, where I have like a bunch of slides and need to stand in front of a lot of people, but I also mean documentation skills where you present a problem and a way how you want to approach this. It really, really helps you to develop this analytical thinking, and it improves your communication and also the reasoning abilities if you need to like back up your solution in ways that you want to do things. And having those persuasive speaking and clear writing skills really helps you rally people around your ideas. You will learn so much from organizing your thoughts and backing them up with information. And some tips: know your audience, try to keep it simple, and have stories or examples to underline your point. My talk here today would be very, very different if I wouldn't speak to iOS developers. And every time I prepare a talk, I really dive into a topic. For this talk today, I wasn't really entirely sure if this is the right topic. It's not as technical as my usual talks. But the more I learned about this topic, the more I realized how important it really, really is. So building those presentation skills really lets you dive into these things. But what makes it even better is if you ask for feedback. It's an opportunity for improvement learning, and it helps you see blind spots and different perspectives. And at Netflix, we say feedback is a gift. Somebody is investing time in your work to get better. So say thank you, and especially if it is critical feedback, or not critical, constructive, because that's a lot harder to actually give. It's someone investing time and energy in your learning. So another tip here is ask people who are likely a little bit against that or like contrarian. They have really, really great points about what you might be missing and what those counter-arguments are, and embrace it. Feedback is not criticism, it's a catalyst for success. All right, so presentation skills and asking for feedback will really help you see the big picture when you solve problems. But without someone stepping up to lead, projects wouldn't make it to the finish line. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. And one of those really, really crucial skills to learn is prioritization. We all have so many things that we're juggling each day, right? And learning how to focus on what truly matters will lead to efficiency and productivity, but also it will reduce just stress and ensures that you're making the most of your time and energy rather than just reacting to every demand as it comes in. So a tip: when you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or when you have too many tasks, take a step back and assess your to-do list. And something that I want to share with you today is the Eisenhower matrix. That is something a previous manager of mine shared with me, and I found it so helpful 2 years ago. So we have 4 quadrants, basically. We have urgent, we have not urgent tasks, we have important, not important, and important, not important is important to me or important that I do them, and not important that I do them. So imagine you're working on a project and you need to ship it in a month or 2. And all of a sudden, a crasher comes in your payments flow. You're the person who's worked on that. That's going to be your main priority. It's urgent, and it's important that you do that. Your feature development, that is something that you schedule. That can wait until you're done with your crasher. So these are scheduled at a time to get it done. And then maybe you have a meeting with Apple, and you know, like, you need to get that project ready for the next day. Somebody says, like, hey, deadline there. that's urgent, but it's not important maybe that you do it. Maybe one of your coworkers can actually finish that project that you want to bring. So that is an important thing to delegate. Learning how to delegate, I really had to learn that. Yes. It's still something that needs to be done, but somebody else can take that over for you. And then there's the fourth one, delete. Not important, not urgent. Those are the tasks that are on your to-do list, maybe have been on there for 2-3 months, they've been sitting there. Those the button that you wanted to have 2 more pixels to the right, that animation that should be a little bit better, but if you really didn't get to it, after so many months or weeks, might not be that important, and maybe delete it, because it is a lot of mental space having that constantly on your to-do list and in the back of your head. So that's great. Now we know how to prioritize. But very, very important to prioritize is also decision-making. Decision-making provides a clear direction to achieve desired outcomes and make necessary progress. Don't delay decisions. The worst thing that can happen is analysis paralysis. You're going to lose a lot of energy and time if you can't make a decision. And any decision at that point, it's going to be progress, and you're going to learn something from that. And also try to get comfortable with making something that might be perceived as the wrong decision at the time. I don't know how many of you remember this, but when Apple actually decided to go into the mobile market, not everybody thought that was a good decision. Apple was only working on laptops at the time, and they brought out an iPod, and all of a sudden they were like, yeah, we know how to do phones. And it only had 1 day of battery life, and people were like, people won't want that. And it also doesn't have a physical keyboard, touch screens, what's that? But we all know how that actually ended up. We all wouldn't be here today if somebody wouldn't have made that decision to go into the mobile market. So make decisions and understand that even suboptimal ones are progress, and you learn from those things. All right, so making decisions, assessing learnings, those are most impactful if they lead to change. And only if we incorporate new ideas and ways are we going to get ahead and adapt. And as software engineers, we often need to adapt quickly. So with that, let's talk about embracing new technology. I think I'm preaching to the choir here. You're all here at a conference. You all are curious. You all want to learn, and you're all open to that. But it is really, really important to stay competitive and knowledgeable. If I would only know how to do Objective-C today, if I would still do my interfaces with Interface Builder and UIKit, I would probably have a tough time landing a job or even work in our evolving code base. So being able to adapt to new technologies really ensures resilience and growth. That's the easy part, I think. A little bit harder is it to adapt to organizational changes. Companies grow. Colleagues or managers, they come or they go, that's tough. Processes and roles, they change. The faster you adapt to these new circumstances, the less disruptive it will be for yourself and your projects. End of last year, we had a reorg at Netflix, and we went from cross-platform teams into mobile and TV-centric teams. In the process, me and my colleagues, we actually lost our managers that we loved working with. But instead of focusing on what we lost, we all jumped into action, and we had people who worked on the team agenda and led meetings. We had people who worked on charters, and some of us had even the unique opportunity to interview our soon-to-be manager. So instead of focusing on the things that you lost, look at the opportunities, embrace a growth mindset, and see how you can learn from this and take on maybe new responsibilities. And what's really important to being, that adaptive is if you have good emotional intelligence, your ability to understand and manage your emotions. And the first part of that is managing your own emotions. There will be situations in your work life that make you sad, that irritate you, maybe make you angry. Maybe you didn't get that job. Maybe you didn't get that raise. Maybe a comment was left in your PR that just didn't land right. We all have been there, right? So in that moment, to not react immediately to this, to not tell your manager, oh, I should have gotten a raise, that is really, really key. So take some time to reflect before you react. Wait until you're calm. Think about how your message might land. Don't write that angry message that you later will regret. And the other one is get curious, not furious. So think about what could I have done better to land that job. Go to your manager and ask, hey, what can I do next time to get a raise? What do you expect of me? So see it as an opportunity to learn. What could I have done better? All right, and the next one, hone your empathy. This is the ability to see things from another perspective, and it can really help you improve with your interactions, helps you improve your interactions with your coworkers and lead to more effective communication and collaboration. If you think back to that example with the manager who was checking in on me often, I had all of these negative assumptions that I might not be performing so well or that they didn't trust me. But instead, I just asked them a question, right? And didn't go with those assumptions. So don't make negative assumptions. And try to see things from another person's perspective, or what other possible interpretations there are. So not making bad negative assumptions and trying to see things from another person's perspective will really help you hone your empathy. All right, let's recap. We learned that asking clarifying questions and sharing context will lead to clear communication and alignment. We learned that building strong relationships and showing appreciation are incredible for collaboration. We saw that building presentation skills or documentation skills and asking for feedback will help you understand all aspects of a problem and help you solve it. We learned how to prioritize and make decisions so that we can ensure that we make the most of our time and of our team's time. And that embracing change in form of new technology or organizational changes helps you grow and discover new opportunities. And last but not least, we now have some tools for managing our emotions, for building empathy skills that help us facilitate a better work environment. And as you might have noticed, these are all connected, and they are essential for career advancement. I hope you get to apply some of these tips I shared today. Maybe you want to thank somebody for helping you out with your work. Maybe you want to ask somebody for feedback. And with that, thank you. Thank you for having me today. Let's continue to build it.